Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the TechIT podcast. I'm your host, Gregory, here with my friend Mike, and today we're going to look at the tech headlines in the world of malware and how you can protect yourself from it as we look at the current events of things regarding the crisis going on in Eastern Europe between bitter enemies, Ukraine and Russia. So, just a warning for this episode for those not comfortable with talking about war. This is the warning. Or rather, let's call it a trigger warning. If such topics of war and conflict are too much.
Trigger warning. We need we'll put that in the title. Trigger warning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious topic, but we're also going to add up on some Elon Musk bits that we missed out upon and some that might even tie into the conflict going on over there right now. But before we do so, how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a pretty decent week. Caught up on some sleep. All good things here. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I just came back for some car shopping, which I might close a deal on something by Monday morning, but time will tell as prices are still high, and I'm trying to negotiate for lower options at this
Yeah.
not popular place. So
Not only car prices are but high, but also the oil prices are high. So
very much so. I believe the average price was above $4,
oh my gosh, huge yuck.
and continuing on with yucky subjects, I guess. Um, like I said, if you haven't heard, there is a ongoing crisis going on in Ukraine with Russian forces attacking key cities because Russia feels indebted to have its own little manifest destiny again, supposedly. Like it's the 1900s again. But
It's like we went back in time.
yeah, not in the good parts of what happened back in time. The more imperialistic side of things. But it seems like some people are trying to defend Ukraine, as well as many out there online are, because they support the fight against Putin's forces or the Kremlin.
I
As
think a lot of people in the future are gonna call this the Putin invasion. I think that just
mhm.
doesn't that sound like a good working title? And, like, if
Well,
I open a history book in, like, 20 years, it's gonna say the Putin invasion.
oh yeah, or the
But speaking of
Kremlin.
speaking of the Putin invasion, let's go and dive into, tech news with, Anonymous and what they're doing in the fight against, the Putin invasion.
Right. So, if you guys are not familiar, as I think I mentioned Anonymous, or we mentioned Anonymous rather, I think one other time only on this podcast, but effectively, Anonymous is an entity that is known for cyber warfare and activism, or hacktivism, as I've heard it termed in many conferences and my own coursework in college. So, I have a piece here from Australian news because I don't trust Western news that much. So forgive me. Uh, that goes over this topic of the hacker collective group Anonymous, who've never been fully captured or anything, hence the name Anonymous, and also their whole collective idea of hacktivism continues into this war, much like it did 2 summers ago with the BLM movement, as well as other movements such as their attacks on the Church of Scientology and I believe, the Church of Mormonism. They also got at one point just messing with them with DDoS effects, DDoS attacks, excuse me, and the like, in the only way they know how. But going to this specific piece, the collective has disabled several Russian government websites, including the state-controlled Russia Today news service, which I can't imagine how many people go to that said page, but they seem to be affecting a lot, where I even watched a YouTube video on how they might be taking responsibility for hacking the Russian regular TV channels with coverage of Ukraine shows instead, as like their own way of saying, up yours, Kremlin. Here's some Ukraine propaganda to wash away your Russianness. I don't know
Now,
if that was
how
clear.
how
No,
effective do you think these attacks are, where they're taking over, was it new Russian propaganda sites and TV stations, all that? Do you think this is like super effective, or do you think this is going to be like, oh yeah, they did this?
um, I think it is to a degree. Part of me thinks Putin doesn't care sometimes, even though I have seen a survey where there's mixed feelings now about the invasion. Like some people are starting to like it over in Russia, which is weird because before I heard there were protests even in Russia to stop this.
Oh yeah, there was protests all over. No one wanted
Yeah,
this war.
I'm not
Uh,
discounting the protests, but
I
it
I think I think a lot of people are surprised, like in this day and age, that there's still, I don't know, that we're still trying to solve conflicts like this.
yeah,
Yeah.
ever since we, pulled out of Afghanistan, which was weak pullout game, 20 years, by the way. That's not a good pullout game. Anyway,
They need to
uh,
level up.
they need to level the pullout game with what we do with our money, maybe. But that's just me. But continuing on with the story, they flooded the sites with distributed denial of service attacks across multiple systems, flooding the said targeted website so that no other traffic could get through, according to internet security expert Robert Potter, no relation to Harry. It's like trying to run 5 people through a door at the same time, he describes. So it's a lot of traffic for a website, as I can't even go through a door with my own mother and father in the same doorway as me. So maybe that says something. But
Um,
they are easy to mount and easy to defend against, though.
and
As one way to, of
most of these are done with botnets, and we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, go ahead, continue on.
course, there's a lot of bouncing off between this stuff because, again, this piece goes on to help the audience in saying who Anonymous is, as they're very, and I'm gonna put emphasis on this, decentralized. They can be anywhere. There could be some here in the States. There could be some in Canada, Mexico, in Ghana, West Africa, in Singapore, Cambodia, UK, Australia, where this article comes from. But they are a decentralized collective in that they have no hierarchy or leadership to be pronounced. Like, this isn't like a whole collective where it's like, oh, we have a leader. It's this guy. Get him. But no, this is an organization that's targets big and small, from the Minneapolis Police Department 2 years ago, which is a real story. You can look that one up on hackernews.com websites, as well as attacks on the CIA, the Islamic State, and Church of Scientology. And they did put up a threatening video back in February the 15th saying Russia to not do anything about this or they will take action. So I don't know. They actually hold up their word by saying they're taking action. So I'll give Anonymous credit for that. They're actually taking action from what they put out. Because you know how you're in school and someone says, I'm gonna beat you up later, or I'm gonna kill you," and then they don't hold up to it because you get in so much trouble if you killed that kid on campus. You know,
Yeah,
they're
right.
the threat.
Um,
Yeah. I don't know if
let's
that happened to you
move
or
along.
any of you viewers, but
So this was a huge article, ABC News.net. Um, there was also a TikTok about the same thing, about
mhm.
Anonymous declaring war uh on Russia. So maybe there's also more to come. Maybe this isn't their only thing they're gonna do. They're not gonna just DDoS websites and take down their TV network to spread propaganda. So maybe there's more to come. So we'll see. Um,
Yeah, that's what this interludes to at the end of the article, as Russian cyber forces are putting up their own DDoS effect. Why do I keep saying that? DDoS attacks on websites of Ukrainian banks and government departments in return for other Western influences, supposedly, on their own cybersecurity. So there's going to be a build-up more of this going into the back half of March, supposedly. But continuing on with this measure, as I said, Western networks are starting to get into this. So, like I said, you can find this at thehackernews.com. where the US and UK agencies warn of a new Russian botnet built within hacked firewall devices. Now, Mike, can you tell everyone at home what a botnet is?
So a botnet is essentially a bunch of uh, weakened systems or taken over systems that are used to spam a specific website or a specific device or a specific like internet service to take it down or to clog it up so no one else can use it.
I've seen it in conducting fish campaigns and set out spamming attacks and carry out DDoS attacks, like I mentioned before.
Most people know the botnet or DDoS attacks from like old school gaming. These were used all the time to take down like servers or whatnot. Like whether you were on like RuneScape or just playing an FPS like Modern Warfare or whatever. Like people would attack those servers all the time to get them knocked down and uh, get some free loot or whatever, or just to if they were mad because they lost the game. That was a huge thing back in the day. But these are not only used for taking out gaming servers; these are used for a lot of different attacks on a lot of different platforms. So
Right. Because this has been around for quite a bit, so botnets have taken out its fair share of targets, big and small, no doubt about it. But the intelligence agencies in the United Kingdom and United States have disclosed details of this botnet malware called Cyclops Blink, attributed to a Russian backed sandworm hacking group, where a worm in itself is a program that can move without being attached to anything. And much like a worm, it kind of makes its way through nearby devices from its host. Not unlike a virus that has to be attached to something. So the
and
agencies proclaim, meanwhile, that this Cyclops Blink appears to be a replacement framework for the VPN filter malware exposed in 2018, which would exploit network devices, mostly small home office devices like routers and networking attached storage devices. So there's a great reach out for this because this includes the UK's police or cybersecurity center, the NSA, FBI, and the CISA. This advisory coming out from both joint departments and regional bodies. So this is this has many implications that can go into what the Kremlin wants to use with this, as tensions keep rising. If the West can do anything with this invasion, as I believe NATO, I guess, wasn't able to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine because they would think that's like gonna make things escalated to bring them into the conflict and maybe cause. And I hate to use the word war, but that could
I
be
mean,
a
I would say it's
very slight possibility.
already is war. I think what they're really worried about is escalating it even further and starting like World War III. Um,
Hmm.
but there's other things that other countries are doing along with sanctioning off like a lot of resources. Now, it's important to remember that Russia is kind of a poor country,
Yeah.
and like I've heard just from random news that there's they're already starting to see the soldiers don't have enough food. Food and water are they're in short supply right now.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully that's enough to push the war effort off course and just kind of uh stall it and end it soon. But we'll see what's going to happen.
I mean, with botnet being in place, it doesn't seem like it's like completely out of the water after they found it. As it was as of January of last year that analysis from Trend Micro identified residual infections still remaining on thousands of networks regarding this fake VPN filter that is being involved here with this Cyclops Blink agent that has made its way across many different aspects and things, which in itself can be deployed as a fake update and is capable of surviving reboots and firmware upgrades with command and control communications facilitated over a Tor network, which that is a concerning mark, as there are ways to remediate this, though. A Seattle headquartered firm is recommending customers to immediately follow the steps outlined in a 4-step Cyclops Blink diagnosis and remediation plan to diagnose and eliminate this threat or potential maliciousness coming from this said botnet. As this conflict continues, cyber warfare will also continue, I feel, again, in closing of this piece. But you can read more about this on thehackernews.com, of course. And this piece was done by a Ravi Lakshmanan. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly.
Sounds good to me. Should we go ahead and slide into the next thing on the Russian-Ukraine war?
Yes.
There's this article here from thehackernews.net or thehackernews.com about it's the Ukraine Computer Emergency Response Team. So apparently mass phishing emails have been recently observed going to like Russian agencies or
Ukraine domain
yeah,
places
Ukraine domains. So what
like
they do is
.uas.
they're sending people these links, and as many people know, phishing is where they try and get you to go to these links and put your credentials in it. And once you get these credentials, you can get into their systems, right?
Yes.
So that's definitely a big issue for Ukraine.
Yeah. As
So definitely be vigilant on this one. It's a big issue. Phishing is it catches more people unawares than you would think because all these websites are made up to look like the actual website. They do an
yeah.
excellent job, just getting all the links looking real and everything looking exactly as it should be. So usually it's just like one character, like out of line on the URL or something like that, and it's really hard to spot sometimes. So,
Always check the sender where it comes from. That's one of
yep.
the ways to immediately stop a phishing attack is to just check who the sender is from. If it has a bunch of numbers and letters in it, don't click on it. It's likely fake. Like my mother got a fake one from Amazon the other day. Don't click on it. They are one of the most common attacks that I've seen happen, much like those uh, robot calls. Well, it's almost worse than a robot call because at least with robot calls, you can get apps that immediately stop it. Phishing, you can't always stop, as they're constantly being flown in by some entity outside or inside the country. But this piece goes further into the amount of entities involved in this, as Belarus has taken Russia's side into the current conflict, which is troubling, as Ukraine now has 2 countries nearby itself that are trying to go for the same mission. All the while, groups are taking sides into this conflict as well, with the aforementioned Anonymous saying that they've declared cyber war again against the Russian government, like we said in our first story, as well as a group called Ghost Sec, short for Ghost Security, I guess, which announced that it will prepare itself on Russian military websites with DDoS attacks of their own in support of the Ukrainian people, end quote. Uh, I mean, the fact that I see all this now with all these hacking groups taking a side in this is actually kind of nice. As well, at least the ones standing up for Ukraine. At least there are some groups that are taking the side of Russia to back them up on the Russian and Belarusian business corporations, with some 195,000 members of a newly set up Telegram group to use any vectors of cyber and DOS attacks on both parties, business, corporation, banks, and entity websites, as well as try to avert the attack that Russia and Belarus is trying to do, that openly lie about the war in Ukraine. Like, they're trying to make it seem like it's justified as like an example of like one of their lies.
And early on, they released a lot of propaganda saying that the Ukraine attacked first.
Yeah. So that's constant. But like I said, there are hacking groups on both sides of this, so we'll definitely keep you posted in future episodes on how this continues. As this is a conflict that I think is just gonna continue, even though I don't want it to continue, as I thought peace talks were being made actually as of this week. And then
I did hear
they
something about that.
they
That
had a
is,
ceasefire declared, and then Russia broke the ceasefire almost the same day by attacking a maternity clinic.
that's terrible.
Yeah. I don't have word on hand of myself how many people got killed in that attack, but it's it's tragic.
It is tragic. Well, let's go and move right along. I think we talked about the war long enough, but let's move more back into. Actually, this is one last thing, but it kind of also relates to our last episode on from Elon Musk.
Right.
So Ukraine had their internet knocked out, and
Hmm.
the they tweeted Elon saying, "Hey, can we get some internet?" And Elon's like, "Yeah, sure." So he hooked him up with some Starlink satellites for free internet for all of the Ukrainian people who needed whether it's info about where they need to move to or just keeping them in the loop is great. So good on Elon for helping out people in need.
Yeah. I like how he's using his space sometimes because, I mean, if you haven't watched that episode where we break down Elon Musk's shades of white or black, then I encourage you to watch it. We worked pretty hard on it, and we appreciate the feedback. And
It was a lot of fun to do and a lot of fun to
we
make.
enjoy them. We'll probably have more breakdowns before this summer on
Agreed.
different icons like Mr. Bezos and the Zuck or Mark Zuckerberg. I
Yeah,
actually
I'm
have a
excited to
book.
work on those. Those are going to be fun.
But back to Elon Musk here. It's a good step in direction because if it was anyone else, we go, oh, what? Why isn't Verizon helping them? Why isn't T-Mobile helping them? I don't want to get into that reign of things because it gets all muddied from there on why
Yeah.
Verizon isn't whatever helping them. Besides, putting out the hashtag and doing the very minimalist thing possible.
Well, either way, this is good publicity for Elon, and hopefully he gets a lot of support from this because I think
Yeah,
his like end goals are good for humanity. So let's go and move on to more Elon Musk stuff. All of these stories are from TikTok. This one's him talking about. I think he's answering a question in an interview about flying cars, and he's like he's explaining why this is not a big focus point for uh, his company Tesla, and why he's not looking into flying cars as of right now. Is he said that there's a lot of concerns around regulations and just safety when it comes to flying cars. Uh, Mostly because a lot of the models being used are like they're not like full like airplane style; they're more like hover style. So you're gonna have like a lot of horizontal rotors, right? And
yeah,
he's explaining, oh yeah, well, if you see like a hover car overhead, and you're like thinking, oh shit, did they get their rotors serviced? Is this gonna fly off and hit me, or is that hubcap gonna fly off and hit me? That is a big issue, and it's definitely something to think about. And I think a lot of his interviews are kind of interesting to listen to because he has a lot of great insights there.
yeah. Because people like I don't like using this word, but casual people out there that usually just know him from the whole stuff with his baby and the second baby that I heard that we got wind of actually, I believe, at the end of last week, where the baby that he had with Grimes a second time. The name's Y of the baby, and she actually is separated from him currently. So people usually pay attention to that side of things as well as his views on cryptocurrency and of the environment, which again it's mixed with different parties, but his insights. I think you put it best in saying how he has a good way of putting insight towards some topic, be it environmentalism, flying cars, which personally I don't think will be commercial in the next decade yet. Until electric cars come into fashion, then flying cars I think will come into fashion. But that's just what I think will happen. What do you think, Mike? You think the flying cars trend will actually happen within the next decade or no?
Probably not, but I'm hopeful. I like the idea of it, but I also have similar concerns that Elon had. So I know that there's a lot of people out there riding around in their junkers, and they're just like, "Yo, it runs," but they're not getting it serviced regularly and putting people in their car and people around them in harm way. So
Yeah,
definitely something to keep an eye on, but I don't think it'll be it won't come out, at least not in the next 10 years, I don't think. Who knows? Maybe I'll be proven wrong. But let's go ahead and jump into our last and hopefully last topic on the Ukraine war. So this is Russia's uh, unleashing a data wiper into Ukraine. So this is malware. I think so. Our big focus for this episode is malware, and um, this is what the Russia used as part of their main attacks on military installations and banks and a lot of big, uh, I think a lot of energy plants as well. They used malware to get access uh,
hmm
to these areas. Um, and they're saying this data wiper. I'm sorry, I'm running out of voice here. They're saying this goes in. It's malware that goes in and wipes data.
hmm it's its prime purpose because a virus in itself is a program that replicates itself across many different pieces of folders and be able to spread rapidly, much like this data wiping malware is uh, showing itself to be capable of doing, which that's already crazy in itself. So that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast to bring light into things like this, as in case any of you viewers are more entwined with this and get more into know with technology news like this that are affecting many different parties. Again, but there's been many different vouchers to have volunteers from Ukraine's hacker underground to begin to appear in forums to help protect the critical infrastructure and even conduct spying missions on Russian relative troops in response to this. As there's a lot of different, again, back and forth between cyber warfare, like we mentioned previously. So, as well as calls for action, of course, which I won't get into geopolitics in this podcast, but
Right. We'll just brush it lightly. And yeah, so this was just to make you guys aware of the big effects of malware, and we're gonna go into more we're gonna go in depth in malware in a second here. Actually, let's go ahead and hop in right now, unless you have more to say on this topic.
yeah, I just wanted to add on just how it's not like it's being ignored. The United States is aware of it, as even though there are DDoS attacks that are deployed ahead of a military offensive to spread confusion amongst the cybersecurity firms in the United States and Western Europe. Uh, a Dr. Leonard Moschmeyer, the Center of Security Studies at Zurich, has noted on what Russia's cyber strategy is, as it's more of a plausible scenario, quote, for more devastating cyber attacks that Russia has planned this invasion for a long time, proposally, as they actually wanted to do this during the Olympics. I heard a rumor. The Summer Olympics, I believe. No, the Winter Olympics that happened just in February. And this pre-positioned implants across Ukraine's critical infrastructure in order to cause mass disruptions coinciding with the military invasion and intrusion. Even though that might not seem to be the case, the cyber operations we have seen do not show long preparation and instead look rather haphazard, which I've seen many different responses to how people are trying to make light of this as well. Like, I don't watch them often, but SNL even had a piece where they compared the Russia invasion to the LA Lakers, which was very distasteful, as trying to make jokes of this situation. But at the same time, I'm as a tech representative and a tech worker, I feel responsibility to cover this as well as Mike. Mike, you are also entwined in this as well.
Yeah, so I think that they were trying to make light of the situation. Um, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of people are worried because Russia is one of those bigger world powers. They may be a poor world power, but they are one of the world powers that have nukes. And I think that's a lot sets a lot of people they're just uneasy about it. So they are trying to set people at ease. Um,
Yeah,
which is not always a bad thing, but I don't know. Maybe they just did it in an unapproved way.
yeah. So to bring this all together, let's give you listeners some tips about malware as well as the different types of malware you may run into.
Yeah, so let's dive into the types of malware. The first type of malware is one of the more heard of ones. Is called it's a virus. So a computer virus is a type of malicious software that, once activated, will replicate itself from folder to folder, inserting its own code. So a virus can spread rapidly and usually infect a system with the intention of stealing personal and financial information, sending spam, or locking down a system. The next big type of malware is the worm. A worm is similar to a virus that it can replicate itself in the system, but unlike a virus, it does not spread other programs to other programs.
Oh,
Once
my bad.
once installed, the worm silently goes to work and infects the machine without the user's knowledge.
It's subtle.
Yeah,
You
so
can't always see it point blank with your
and it
eyes.
will continue to replicate itself hundreds of times over, depleting the system of resources and damaging devices. Another big one that for a while was, I'm sure everyone got this one when they tried to download whatever recording software to record their Minecraft gameplay or whatever, or
For free RAM,
or free
yeah, I
RAM
get free
is
RAM.
is the Trojan. The Trojan's type of malware that disguises itself as legitimate software, but really service, but really
It
serves
portrays a
as
malicious purpose in a
yeah,
way.
it serves as a malicious purpose. A Trojan may claim to be a free update, a game, or antivirus program, tricking the user to install it to their device.
It
So
works
once installed,
quietly.
yeah, it works in the background. So once installed, it works quietly in the background, installing like backdoors, and it can take other harmful actions. So yeah, definitely be aware of those, especially when you're installing stuff. So make sure that it's from a credible source, and make sure that like, hey, this program is usually like two gigs to install, but like for some reason on this website it's 4 gigs. Maybe look for another website.
So be sure to check with other people in your circle or even
Yeah,
outside your circle if like you're like if like anything's legitimate. Like I heard on Nextdoor, which is like localized Facebook, like neighborhood. That's how localized it is, Mike. Nextdoor.
yeah, I've
Um,
heard of it. I think you did
there
talk
was a
about.
scam on Amazon TVs, like connecting to Amazon TVs, supposedly, where they gave out fake codes to activate them, and it actually took control of the TVs as well as billing information that might be tied to how you bought the TV. So that's scary.
Yeah, very scary, especially if they get your billing information, they can probably just start buying stuff with your credit card or whatever you use to buy that. All right, so
Yeah,
the next big malware to look out for is ransomware. This is more and more common as like nowadays. This is
especially since COVID broke out. Yeah.
uh-huh. So this is where malicious software encrypts your data and blocks access until the ransom is paid. Now, a lot of the time, they ask for cryptocurrency. Of course, the cryptocurrency is more and more traceable. Um, so, I mean, there's still some out there that's untraceable, but they usually ask for cryptocurrency in exchange for your data back.
Hmm. Or
So
just
the
resources back.
most common delivery method is by clicking a link within an email or an attachment. So keep
Yeah,
an eye out in your emails.
similar to phishing, there's a lot of overlapping with these, but
Yeah.
it's the nature that's
These are
different
just
sometimes.
subsections, they do have crossover. The next, big malware section is spyware. Spyware is a type of software that installs itself on your device and secretly monitors your online activity. It collects data, passwords, credit card numbers, and browsing activity. So, like, I th this is a big, this is big for collecting your credit card information if you do a lot of buying stuff online.
Banking, medical,
Yeah, people will take that and, when they set up spyware on your computer or whatever, and they'll take that and sell it or they'll use it to buy stuff. So careful with spyware. Keep an eye out for anything that seems fishy.
and
Ad-
adware is a similar nature where it can be downloaded unexpectedly and just keep having pop-up ads show up on your screen. Uh, it's not as outwardly malicious as it makes more of a what some would call a nuisance or a annus horribilis, as maybe some would call it back in my college days. These ads range from small banner ads that may show up on your phone or computer all the time to very big pop-up windows take up like your whole screen or monitor. They say things like, "Oh, this pill will make you huge," or "There's a hot woman in your area. Click here to talk to her now." Like it'll use similar fonts to try to get you to get into this link, which in itself could be a phishing attack as well. I know of a friend back at Kent State that was a victim of this, where he thought he could get like free money or something because he was slow on sleep and awareness of tech cyber crimes. So that was a hard one to get over. But
Yeah,
uh,
I've seen a couple instances of this when I used to work IT, or sometimes if family members would come to me like, "Yo, what's with all this bloatware and whatnot?" Um, Sometimes it was adware, and sometimes it was adware that was
yep.
introduced via like Trojans. So yeah, just keep in mind that like Trojans and other types of malware can also introduce stuff like adware and other stuff to your PC. Like they had kept like clicking up, they're opening their browser and it was opening a totally different browser to a totally different link that they didn't like,
Hmm.
that wasn't their homepage, and it would just go there every time. And it turned out that it was a Trojan, so like every time you uninstalled that browser, it would just come back. So it was a Trojan that would reinstall the browser and make it the default every single time.
Yeah, and just to kind of bring this all together, as we mentioned before, on how you can stay safe from malware protection, keep, or if you don't have one, or in the event you have one, keep any virus and other software on your computer or phone up to date.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one.
Second, or well, what have you, the day an update shows up, keep it updated, especially Google Chrome. I've seen a lot of zero-day attacks on Google Chrome vulnerabilities lately as a part of my newsletters that I'm a part of on my email. So,
And go ahead and explain zero-day attacks for.
They're usually done by cyber criminals that on the day of a release or an update that may not be as perfect as it should be, they'll find a vulnerability in it and just power through, maybe brute force their own coding and malicious nature to either inject something malicious into said file. Like I've seen this a lot with phone updates, as well as, like I said a minute ago, Google Chrome. So it's always
And
good to
sometimes
keep that updated.
and sometimes it's not even just a brute force attack. Sometimes it's just a backdoor that they left in for testing purposes that
Hmm.
they forgot to take out. You know what I mean? That they have to patch in later. So be careful of zero-day attacks
Yes,
and always update it as much as
indubitably.
you can. And then our last piece of malware subsection is botnet. And a botnet is a device that has been affected with malicious software to do something harmful without the user's knowledge. But botnets are networks of these infected devices working together to control under the control of an attacker. Botnets can be used to conduct phishing campaigns, send out spam, or used to carry out distributed denial service, also known as DDoS attacks.
We went
Um,
over one earlier in this podcast. So
Mhm.
there was the nature of them is always eminent, as I've seen botnets even use across marketplaces, like the scalping of the PS5s. Like, I think we mentioned that before on this podcast because it's still impossible to get a PlayStation 5 that's, regularly priced.
And
And
whenever we talk about DDoS attacks, I'm pretty sure we talked about one with like earlier in the I think in season one. It's
yes,
usually a botnet doing the work.
yeah, botnet as well as some interplay sometimes with different pieces of malware because cyber criminals like to kind of match them up together like George Lucas does with his movies. Rhyming poetry.
All right, so let's hop into tips and tricks for malware protection. So these are just some bullet points we had on keeping yourself aware and preventing any accidental malware attacks. So keep
Yeah.
your. I'm
So
sorry, did you have more to go on? Go ahead.
yeah, so to just kind of bring this all together, with those terminology and the different malwares involved, I would recommend installing a firewall as well. I mean, the base Windows Defender firewall is good, but I usually would personally get a firewall of my own that's either cloud based or physical based or
Right.
physical,
Yeah,
you know,
that's one of my
that you
bullet
can
points
control.
is definitely getting a firewall, installing firewall, adjusting settings in your current firewall. These are all options that would help protect you. Um,
Also, backing up anything.
yeah, back up
Always
your
back
data
up.
regularly.
Be mindful on suspicious links. As like I said, look for any misspellings or unknown like coincidences. Or just talk around amongst your circle as to like in case someone's pretending to be someone close in your family. That's always scary. Like saying, "Are you telling me to buy Amazon gift cards again, Grandma?" No, that's not her. Don't click on the link.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask people, "Hey, is this really you?" Keeping your antivirus and software up to date is one we talked about earlier. Suspicious links we just talked about, and only buy from trusted sources. Um, so make sure that if you go to a .com, that this is a .com that's been like there are websites out there where you can be like, "Hey, what's is this?" You can look up the website and be like, "Is this a trusted source?" Um,
Make
I'm
sure the
like,
certificate's up to date.
what was that?
Make
Oh,
sure the certificate
certificate.
authority is
Yeah,
up to date.
that's a big one.
Look for
Make
the
sure
little
it's a
lock.
make sure it's a HTT uh or HTTPS, not
Protocol.
HTTP.
Hmm.
Make sure it's a secure site. Um, but yeah, there's even websites you can go to and type in the website, and it'll tell you if it's a trusted site. So
Exactly.
So definitely, and did you want to go into? Let's go into some stuff we missed out from our last podcast. Was the Boring Company? I can't believe we forgot about this. So Elon
Yeah.
does have the Boring Company, um, where he's making tunnels, right?
Yes. So like trying to have his way of kind of redoing the solving the problem of traffic. Where I've seen people poke fun at it and like, why are you doing this? You're not gonna make a new subway system, which in a way I kind of get their criticism of it, but he's
Well,
early on in the process.
his end goal is to use these on Mars, right? To make subterranean tunnels for
Yes.
transport. So
Yeah.
like this is kind of like a testing ground for him. Um, he does have a lot of like buyers for his. He's done projects for people before. Some of them ran into like environmental issues and like zoning
Uh-huh.
issues and whatnot. But
Uh-huh.
he has, I think it was LA, was it LA or and then in Vegas or something like that?
He tried one in Florida, a tunnel, as well as one in LA, which was a subway extension that was cost about $2 billion
Yeah,
for
it's
2.5
expensive.
miles.
It's
So
definitely expensive. It's not
it's
cheap.
it's it's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
And this company's also made other. They have other products, right? They have like Lego like dirt bricks. They have the flamethrower. I think is a big one. A lot of people have heard of.
And before you ask, yes, it's illegal flamethrower. It's a
Illegal
kind of an
flamethrower.
old story from like 2016, 17, where he asked people, "Do you want flamethrowers?" And he made a legal flamethrower because it doesn't shoot flame like a foot out, so you can't even declare it a flamethrower. It's more like a some. There's
Like
this
a
guy.
torch.
It's like a really big torch.
He sold hats. He sold bricks. He sold
Uh huh.
flamethrowers.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's had other products coming out of this company, but I think it's kind of a cool idea. Like beat the traffic, pay. I don't know who he's going to charge for these underground tunnels. To you drive your car into it and you just latch on and they just kind of go. They're supposed to go like 150 miles an hour, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think it's a cool idea. Hopefully it's not like just for the super rich. Hopefully it's for like middle class, which who knows
Well,
how much middle class will be left by the time these come out. Uh,
yeah. I mean, I saw a video of a guy going on about it where it was there was a proposed tunnel that was supposed to help get people to the LA Dodgers stadium, which that's specific because the LA Dodgers stadium, for those that don't know, the parking situation is kind of bad because they don't have an official parking lot. So you have to park really far away and walk there at the time of this recording or at the time of that video that I watched. Actually, more
I just
so.
hope that he's speculating for the future buyer
Uh-huh.
as inflation's going up, everything's getting more expensive. There's going to be less spending power in the future for these luxury items. So I hope that he's speculating for that and is coming up with a price that even someone in the and that doesn't have a lot of spending power can take part in.
Yeah, and it's being tried out in more cities as I see the mayor of Fort Lauderdale actually closed down on speaking with Boeing Company about building a tunnel for their rail station, the Bright Line station, to go from the middle of the city to the beach, which that's an interesting take to get people quickly to the beach in Fort Lauderdale, which granted, the population there is probably older than me and Mike combined, the median age, but regardless, jokes aside, the
Well, also
application of
think
this.
about their spending power. What is their spending power? If they're retired or looking at retirement, is their spending power is not going to be going up. It's going to be going down or leveling out. So I think that's another issue that you have to think about um, for this
Yeah,
kind of project. I think that's
where
definitely something you need to consider.
I mean the rough estimates for this current Fort Lauderdale idea, it would be 10 to 15 million per mile, not including the costs of their application towards the station themselves.
So that's station not included. That's just
No.
for the line. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be expensive. he better be. I hope he's thinking. I hope he's keep putting that in his calculations and like for me, I'm thinking about this. I'm like, whoa, like he must think that a ton of people are gonna be using this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just like a few very rich people. I don't know.
That's why I think he's smart by trying out in these cities like LA, Fort Lauderdale, Miami.
Right. Especially like it might be a cool like tourist attraction kind of thing. Maybe
Yeah.
you get like an inner city hotel for a little and or maybe something just maybe you want to spend time in the inner city, get an inner city hotel or something, and then maybe you want to go to the beach the next day. So you just jump on this and go through the tubes, you know?
Mhm.
So it's kind of a
Exactly.
cool idea. I like it. I hope that the pricing is low enough that the average person can use it. But let's go and scoot right along. I think that's the last topic for us today, right?
Yeah. So we just want to thank you all again for listening to us today. It's today was a bit of a kind of a more important episode rather than the casual. Oh, look at these tech headlines
Yeah, yeah. We
episode,
dove deep
as
into
due to the conflict going
malware.
on in East Europe. So the best way I can end is by saying this: we stand with Ukraine, and if you're looking for a way to help out, go to projecthope.com.org. Excuse me, projecthope.org to help out the people that need medical supplies and urgent assistance in Ukraine or refugees struggling to get by in the neighboring nations of Poland. So, again, projecthope.org is where you can go out and donate to help these people. Stay vigilant out there, everyone,
Right on, guys. Stay vigilant.
and we'll hear from you soon. Godspeed.